Welcome to Vigilant News for December 21st, 2021. My name is Justin, founder of Stillness in the Storm, and I'm joined by my co-host Ryan DeLarn from Underground Newswire. Ryan, how's it going?
It's going well. Good to be here.
We have an action-packed show for you as usual. We have Ghislaine Maxwell trial updates. Trump was booed, and that's actually a good sign. We have Pelosi taking more heat for her insider trading. We have let's see, I was trying to do it by memory, but sometimes things get all messed up here. All right, Biden scare tactics, that happened today, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. And we also have a story, top 5 pesticides companies in the world use highly hazardous pesticides. So interesting stuff, definitely stick around for what we got today. Before we get started, as usual, go to stillnessinthestorm.com/donate to support our work. There you can find one-time donation services as well as subscription, our Subscribe Star. We're going to be doing a big stream potentially tomorrow, maybe Thursday, we'll let you know. And you can join that through Subscribe Star. You can also support us by going to any of the number of the links in the description, specifically the Ascent Nutrition. We have still that promo going on, 10% off your first order. And with that, let's get into our first story today, which is the Ghislaine Maxwell updates. What you got for us?
Well, the trial is drawing to a close. Yesterday, we heard final arguments in the trial, and today the jury is deliberating. Haven't heard anything since, but we've been extremely busy with some of these things we have coming up. So most of this article will be a recap of what we already know and some new little tidbits. The trial as a whole has been a pretty big disappointment in many respects. The findings, whichever way they go, are likely to cause a huge stir. Closing arguments were heard yesterday. The jury is currently in the process of deliberating. 12-person panel sent a note to Judge Allison Nathan shortly after 10 a.m. this morning, just about an hour after they started their deliberations for the day. The note read, quote, "We would like the transcripts testimony of Jane, Annie, and Caroline." The jurors wrote in the note, referring to the 3 Maxwell accusers who were called by prosecutors at trial. Jane had told the jury that she met Epstein and Maxwell at age 14 when the pair approached her at the Michigan Arts Camp Interlochen in the early 90s. Jane was groomed for abuse at Epstein's Palm Beach mansion by Maxwell, prosecutors say. Annie Farmer, the only accuser to give her full name, said that Maxwell gave her a nude massage and groped her breast when she was a teen after she was lured to Epstein's New Mexico ranch. The jury was charged by Nathan on Monday afternoon to deliberate for about 50 minutes before heading home for the night without reaching a verdict. Tuesday morning, one of Maxwell's lawyers was spotted outside the courthouse helping load cardboard boxes into a white van. It's unclear what was in these boxes, but one of the containers had "shred all" scrawled in black marker on it. So that's an interesting little tidbit. You have Assistant U.S. Attorney Allison Moe urging jurors at the trial to view Maxwell as a sophisticated predator. Now, Moe is one of the prosecution. She is the prosecutor who is not James Comey's daughter. She wants the jurors to think of Maxwell as a sophisticated predator who preyed on young, vulnerable girls as Epstein's, quote, right hand and partner in crime. Maxwell and Epstein were partners. They were partners in crime who sexually exploited young girls together, Moe said. Throughout the trial, Maxwell's lawyers sought to undermine the credibility of her accusers, including suggesting some of them may have false memories about their experiences with Maxwell. And keep an eye out for this week sometime, possibly next week, for an exclusive coverage from us about the False Memory Syndrome Foundation. We'll be updating, I'll keep you updated as this continues. I believe the jury is still deliberating, but so any moment now, the news could come down the pipe, and it's either way it goes. It's this whole case is small potatoes, as we've mentioned many times before.
That's right.
So the outcome really doesn't matter. It's not going to change anything. Maybe she'll get some kind of justice, but none of these people who are implicated, none of these big names are going to see any kind of justice, or even just being exposed. I doubt that that'll happen even. So
Yeah, a lot of people agree with what you said, Ryan. I mean, it seems like there's it's a, I don't know what the right word would be, but show trial, sham trial, token gesture trial. I mean, it's, they had the justice system, in order to maintain, excuse me, the illusion of justice and the illusion of the rule of law, they have to prosecute crimes, right? So is this really a full prosecution, considering all the people that are named and implicated? This should be a sweeping investigation, like grand juries all over the place, right? But instead there isn't. So
that, I mean, both the defense and the prosecution kind of did a piss poor job, in my opinion, of what they were supposed to do. It just seemed like no one was very invested in this trial, as if it's all kind of, I'm not saying it's predetermined, but it's not as like, I think, important as they trying to hype it up to be. I think it's meant to placate the public. She'll get a slap on the wrist. Maybe she'll get some jail time. I could be wrong. They could throw her in the slammer for the rest of her life. I doubt it, but I mean, we don't know. I'm just saying, it seems like this is kind of like meant to quell the public's interest in this whole case and put a pin in it for good. Epstein, killed himself, supposedly, and now Maxwell, she'll get the slap on the wrist, and that's it. A little bookend for this whole saga.
right.
Maybe not, though. I mean, we still have Virginia Roberts, who is suing Prince Andrew. That's pretty huge. And then who knows what'll come up after this? Like, where are the lawsuits against the police that let Epstein kill himself? Where are the lawsuits against any of this stuff? Like, why aren't they looking into why all of that evidence disappeared after the FBI supposedly got it? There's just a lot of weird little holes in this whole story. So
yeah, precisely. I was even thinking it's possible that they do maybe throw the book at Maxwell a little bit in an attempt to try to drum up the whole, she's a victim thing. Like, oh, look, this is more proof that we have systemic injustice in our justice system because this innocent woman took all the blame for Epstein's crime, something like that. So lots of ways this could go. We don't really know. One of the things I'm definitely putting my money on is we're probably not going to see mass arrests at the end of the week. We're probably not going to see big players in the cabal taken down, anything like that. So, but we will see something, and something will happen. So we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, really, no matter which way it goes, it's going to cause some commotion, I guess, in the media for a little while at least. But compared to what's his name, the little Call of Duty real life kid, Kyle Rittenhouse,
right?
Compared to him, I mean, Twitter was just a buzz with people, celebrities chiming in with their 2 cents about that whole thing, and no one gives a flying fart about Kyle Rittenhouse. I never want to see that kid again on the news. But like this, which is an important case that could have worldwide geopolitical implications, and everyone's silence, complete crickets. It's just a little, it's a little shady.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. Okay, all right. Well, that's that story. Let me go ahead and cover the Trump booing one. I'm sure a lot of people are interested in that. So first thing with this story, I wanted to play the clip of Trump being booed, and then we'll cover some of the media spin and what's happening with all this, because that's a big part of it, I think.
I'd be in there booing him too.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, exactly. That's kind of the whole point, is that Trump is pushing a very, unpopular idea to the wrong people. So, all right, so here we go. This is the clip.
Both the president and I are vaxxed, and did you get the booster?
Yes.
I got it too. Okay, so
Don't. That's all. There's a very tiny group over there.
So I couldn't really hear any booing, but what you just saw is the clip.
both the president and I
I'll
are
show it one
vaxxed,
time.
and did you get the booster?
Yes.
I got it too. Okay, so
Don't. That's all. There's a very tiny group over there.
So there you have it. That's the booing, supposedly. Now, to be honest with you, I couldn't actually hear a lot of booing, but it's there. I have no doubt it's there because he's been booed at other places. So I wanted to show you guys what I saw. I just typed in Trump being booed into Google to see what I could find. Where is it? Here, well, I'll just do it real time for you guys so you can see what I saw. So Trump booed. Let's see what came up. So we have the New York Times, Desert News, the Daily Beast, Insider, CNN, NBC News, The Independent, CNBC, Newsweek, Washington Post, USA Today. This is the first set of articles that we see on Google. What does that tell you, really? Well, what I would argue is that, first of all, if the media, mainstream media, the cabal-controlled media, didn't want you to see a story, they wanted to downplay a story, like Ryan was just talking about with respect to the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, you wouldn't necessarily see it on the top pages when you just search something like Trump booed or search for Ghislaine Maxwell. There'll be a little something, but not this kind of coverage. So what are they doing? Well, what they're doing is they think that they can spin a story to feature or cater to a narrative that is important to them, because the short end of it is that our world is largely controlled by narratives. Myths and stories and things like this, these are the things that actually run our society. What a myth is, in this sense, is a story or piece of information that is widely believed to be true, or at least treated as true, which then becomes the foundation for behavior. A really good example of that is a calendar. There's nothing saying that a calendar exists with respect to minutes and seconds, but we created this artifice so that we could organize our society. So it's not that myths are totally made up, but we need them to govern our society, especially govern human behavior and the way people think. So what the media does is they take something and they generate a narrative for it that then can be grafted onto people's consciousness and used to steer their thinking and control their behavior. Trump being booed is something that the cabal media most definitely thinks is a good thing, I would argue. Why? Because it fans the flames for the fact that Trump isn't actually as popular as he would like people to believe, and we think he is. So the short end of the stick is that if Trump is not as popular as people think, then that would devalue his social proof. And that means that some people who are maybe supporters of Trump would start to back off because they don't think he's extremely popular. Conversely, if Trump is extremely popular, then a lot of people who are on the fence would be more inclined to side with him because of the nature of how popularity works. And I don't have time to go into all the deep psychology behind this, but basically, the more popularity a person has, the more likely people are to follow them and do what they say and suggest. So point one, the media wants to downplay Trump's popularity because he's pushing this, the booster. Two, Trump is being regarded as somebody who pushes anti-vax sentiment on the people that follow him. Well, with this Trump booing thing, we have proof now, and we've had this for a while, and this is something I like to bring up when people talk about how Trump is for vaccines and we have to be skeptical about him and all these kind of things. Yes, we should be skeptical, and I'm going to lead up into my next point here, but the main point here is that the people who follow Trump are not just mindless people. The fact that Trump is talking about getting boosters means he's not anti-vax. And that means that the media can't paint him as a wild, crazy conspiracy theorist who's just anti-vaccine. Point three, the fact that Trump is being booed means that the people that follow Trump are not just mindless followers. The whole idea that Trump is just a cult leader is debunked because cult followers don't question cult leaders, right? So
yeah, I mean, I certainly don't agree with the guy and everything. And that's, I think you'd be hard pressed to actually find a politician out there that you actually agree with on every point. Exactly.
Great point. So what this shows, I would argue, is that Trump he has a following that is actually capable of critical thinking. And this might be the most important thing I say on this. And my research and my studies about what caused the problems we're dealing with in our world, all the corruption, whether we're talking about stuff 6,000 years ago or stuff that happened yesterday. Why does tyranny reign? Why do evil people get away with murder and get away with crimes? Why are we not able to right the ship towards freedom and prosperity for ourselves and our children, and we're constantly having issues? Well, the reason why, I would argue, is because people don't know how to think critically. They don't know how to question authority. They don't know how to work together to fight irrational and invalid authorities by all sorts of various means, like nonviolent, God, I can't think of it. Yeah, nonviolent protests. When the thing that Gandhi was doing, sorry, it escapes my memory for the moment, but basically when a bunch of people like the truckers in Colorado say, you know what, you're not getting any shipments.
Mass non-compliance.
That's it. Thank you. Yes. So we are living in a situation right now where if we, the people, rally together to say we're not putting up with vax mandates, we are not putting up with any of the various draconian policies that are coming through, then they basically have to stop, because if we don't, we the people don't participate, it ain't going to happen. I got a friend right now in Canada who's having to deal with this encroaching vax mandate. And he's like, what can you do? And I told him, well, you know, the ultimate solution is everybody who doesn't want to get vaccinated has to work together to organize so that they can have mass non-compliance. And if we did that, we would deal decisive blows against the cabal, and we can do it lawfully. We don't have to grab our pitchforks. So in closing, I would say that the Trump being booed thing is actually a good sign in a multitude of ways. It proves that he's not anti-vax, which means the media campaign him as anti-vax. It proves that the people that follow Trump are not just mindless lemmings that do whatever Trump says. They actually think, and when he says something they don't agree with, they're vocal about it. And three, it's a demonstration of the fact that when we, the people, rally together, we can affect great change and have our voices be heard and deal massive blows to, you know, the corrupt powers that be. So yeah, that's it on that story. Where do we want to go next? What do you think?
Well, I got a few things to talk about here.
Okay.
If you've been watching these reports, we've been talking about insider trading a lot lately, particularly Nancy Pelosi. We played a clip, I believe it was like a day or two ago, maybe, where she was basically defending Congress's right to participate in a free market, which is like kind of like a sneaky way of like justifying her actions, which is, you know, I guess I'm at a loss for what you would call that, but it's definitely corrupt. So we had Pelosi, and we had, I think, 14 members of Congress were found violating the Stock Act. Well, now we have 75 lawmakers were found to have, and this is coming out of the Business Insider, 75 lawmakers at least bought and sold stocks in companies that make COVID-19 vaccines, treatments, and tests.
Wow.
So not only are they pushing policies and shutting down and basically forcing people to use these products, they're also like doing all of the shady insider trading that goes with it. So yeah, that's coming out of Business Insider. Check out the show notes for a link to that. And then we have coming up on the heels of that, there was a piece that came out recently about Pelosi getting some pushback for defending these people. Anyway, so we got dozens of Republicans, Democratic lawmakers on Capitol Hill invested in companies that have a direct stake in the nation's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, according to an insider analysis of federal financial records. In 2020, at least 13 senators and 35 U.S. representatives held shares in Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson is one of those huge American companies. That have, first of all, they had like thousands of lawsuits for their talcum powder being found to be carcinogenic, tons of babies and stuff getting harmed by those products. But yeah, we're going to trust a product that they just rushed out into the market with a few bribes to the FDA. So that's interesting. Then we have at least 11 senators and 34 representatives holding shares in Pfizer, who basically funds all of the media and is pretty much, I'd say, the most prolific vax producer. Then in 2020 and in 2021, members of Congress voted on 6 relief bills, together worth nearly $6 trillion.
Wow.
Congress also authorized more than $10 billion to help drug companies develop and distribute the vaccines, and forced health insurers to cover the cost of getting the shot, all the while knowing exactly what was going on and what they were going to do to capitalize on it. some of them had already had the stocks before all of this, and some of these people, Mitch McConnell, Dianne Feinstein, they might appear on the outside to be opposing forces, but they're not. It's about as fake as a couple boxers, hyping up their, aggression on the camera, and they're smoking good cigars together after the match,
Right.
raking
Yep.
in all that cash. So that's that. 75 lawmakers found to be, investing in these COVID companies shadily, to say the least.
Mhm.
Then last week, when confronted with Business Insider report that found dozens of lawmakers and staffers had at some point violated a law that prevents insider trading, it's called the Stock Act, if you want to look into it, Pelosi declared, "We are a free market economy. They should be able to participate in that." Pelosi and her husband have had a famously successful run with their market holdings, their personal market holdings. They saw their family's wealth increase dramatically over the course of the pandemic. I actually have their filings, because you have to file, and they're making millions of dollars. This is like several times her salary. It's strange. As Speaker of the House, you're only supposed to be making like a few $100,000, but her net worth is over 100 million.
Wow. No kidding.
Yeah. So that's that. I also had to go with that, an unrelated video, but it does include Pelosi if we want to show that.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. This video speaks
like
for
A
itself.
feel-good video.
Exactly. Little inspiration.
For all you people at home who may not be the biggest fan of this skeletal bog witch.
This broomstick in a trash bag. All right, there we go. Here, let's see.
Official was a member. He brought to that committee his experience as a local official, as a member of the state legislature. This is if. So in any case, Mark of Disown. Mark Disown.
Oh, man.
I hope he's not one of my constituents.
I hope he's not one of my constituents.
So yeah, the rebellion's live and well, basically. The revolution, the true revolution, we might say, the American Revolution is alive and well. So that's good. Okay. All right, let's see. I got a couple more for us, and then we'll get this here wrapped up. Let's listen to Biden now that we're in the mood for.
Yeah, I actually haven't heard this yet. I'd be
Oh, no?
interested
Okay.
in hearing what he had to say. They've been hyping it up. This is what happened today, I assume. big announcement?
Yes, I believe it was today. Yeah, he's really working hard here to get us to do something. He's like the free advertising for the pharmaceutical companies. So anyway, let me
Might as well just become like a big pharma mascot.
seriously.
Thanks to my administration and the hard work of Americans, we led a rollout, made America among the world leaders in getting shots in arms. But uptake slowed this summer as vaccine resistance among some hardened. Look, the unvaccinated are responsible for their own choices. But those choices have been fueled by dangerous misinformation on cable TV and social media. These companies and personalities are making money by peddling lies and allowing misinformation that can kill their own customers and their own supporters. It's wrong. It's immoral. I call on the purveyors of these lies and misinformation to stop it. Stop it now.
Come on, guys.
Oh, I'm sorry, Biden. That's slow, like pull back. Oh my
I'm gonna
God.
get you.
Wow, what a
Yeah,
piece of work.
Smell you real good.
Well, Ryan, I mean, I don't know, but I haven't gotten my paycheck for pushing
Yeah.
anti-vax views in a
Yeah,
while.
where's
Like,
all
what
my-
happened with that, right?
Where's all my friggin' ducats?
I know, seriously, like, come on. I mean, I haven't been taken out to dinner. I'm not going to the Cayman Islands. I haven't even been to St. James Island for pushing anti-vax policies. Like, come on, what happened, right?
Sucks.
Yeah, it's BS. That what Biden is doing is he's just trying to create divide and conquer, I would argue, by pushing this idea that somehow unvaccinated people or people who are skeptical of the vaccine, which are people who are often pro-vax, by the way, are somehow, being fueled by ideas coming from cable TV and social media. like,
It's funny how an administration that has just been catastrophic and has been caught lying countless times is going to talk about misinformation and lies, especially talking about how these people are making money off of spreading this misinformation, when we have just talked about 75 lawmakers, 14 members of Congress making millions of dollars off of their, being in cahoots with the big pharma. So it's complete bullshit. Don't give me that, Joe Biden. Like, I'm not making money here talking about anti-vax. And I don't care if people want to get it. You know what I mean? We're just reporting what we find and think is worth reporting.
Right.
And it's not, it's not all it's cracked up to be, folks, but it's a labor of love.
Yeah. And it's, let's just put some things into perspective. If we were pro-vax and we had a big following, we would likely have our door beaten down by people trying to get us to do things like what happened with the Pentatonics, where they recorded a Christmas Get Your Booster album, or Ariana Grande and Fallon, who recorded a commercial. Conversely, if you're vaccine hesitant, which by the way, doesn't necessarily mean you're anti-vax. Like, I'm skeptical of vaccines for many reasons, well before the COVID vax came out. But there are people who are pro-vax, who literally get the flu shot every year that are like, wait a second, I don't know if I want to get this COVID vaccine. So take that into consideration. Then also take into consideration that for being vaccine hesitant, you could be fired from your job, you could be banned from social media, and you could have your revenue services stripped away, like Patreon and things like this. So the idea that somehow anti-vaxxers are getting like buckets of money dumped in their lap to push the anti-vax view is just a flat out lie. So yeah, it's just more fear mongering coming from the shitter in chief over here.
Yeah, and having to do these feeds every morning, both of us together, going through dozens and dozens of articles every single morning, it's very apparent from our perspective that there are two realities out there, at least. And the one that's the most obviously fake is the one that is being pushed by Joe Biden, by Jen Psaki. It holds up just because people subconsciously aren't ready to face the truth of like how effed up the world really is. Yeah. It's easier to continue being a furry and running around eating your soy. I mean,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
But yeah, it's like, and then we are supposed to be the liars here, which I just find hilarious.
Yeah, thankfully we both got a pretty good sense of humor, so there's a lot of jokes flying around here to keep things cheerful. So okay, well, with our last story, we have let's see.
Oh yeah, this is interesting.
Okay.
Well, I also
okay, yeah, we can go to that one too. So for our second to last story, we got Kamala Harris refuses to blame the unvaccinated for COVID waves. This is really interesting, strange. Let's see if this clip is something that we can listen to.
Thing that first hits me is the fear quotient on all of this. I've written books on fear, and I think everyone is panicked. I think it's sweeping across the country, and that doesn't necessarily fit the facts. Actually, sweeping across the country is probably part of the reason everyone's afraid. You hear these terms, right? The terms that it's spreading like wildfire. All of that makes people afraid. And then you're told, wash your hands, wear a mask, open a window. Well, we've been hearing that for 2 years. So what are the tools against the fear? Here are the tools that the Biden administration is not using yet, and I hope they will. Tool number one is that if you're boosted, if you're vaccinated and boosted, the chances are growing greater by the scientific day that you're not going to get anything other than a mild case here. That's pretty good news. Secondly, we got a pill sitting there at the FDA's doorstep that hasn't been approved yet, the Pfizer pill, that it looks like it decreases.
All right. So that has nothing to do with our story.
Sometimes
apparently.
they do that in just a minute.
Yeah, right. I was hoping to get some kind of clip, but basically the idea is that for whatever reason, Ms. Harris here hasn't talked about the unvaccinated. So this is the pandemic of the unvaccinated, Biden said in September address to the nation. But Harris may not be willing to blame the unvaccinated for the continued spread of the virus. She did make it clear that the best thing people can do to protect themselves is to get their vaccine or a booster. So, why is this interesting? Why are we bringing this up? Well, to me, it's it could speak to many different things. It could be that there's some kind of disagreement between Biden and Harris as to what they should be doing. could indicate that there's something else happening, like they're going to spin something in the future here, and they want to keep Harris away from the story for right now. Any thoughts from your perspective?
Well, we know that there has, well, at least it's being rumored that there's a lot of tension between Jill Biden and Kamala Harris. I don't think Joe Biden really is present enough to like hold a grudge against anybody really at this point. But there's, yeah, I mean, there's these White House people leaving in droves, citing just like unpleasant work environment. And yeah, I don't know if she just wants to start distancing herself from the Bidens or what's going on here, but you know, there's all kinds of speculation that we could talk about. Unfortunately, when the news lies to you, speculation flourishes.
Exactly.
But, without getting into all that, it's who knows what's going on.
Yeah, it could even be that Harris is so unpopular that if she mentions it, it'll kill their ability to push it another way. So.
Yeah, she'll go from 1% approval rating to 0.
Exactly. Negative even. Awesome. Okay, so what do we got for our last story here?
Well, last story, I don't want to read the whole article to people, but I will just raise some awareness on it. A shocking investigation revealed that the top 5 pesticide companies in the world use what is called highly hazardous pesticides, or HHPs. And what they do is they concentrate these HHPs and the products that contain them into developing nations, like say in Africa or somewhere over in Asia. And even here, we've had people, it's now known that glyphosate, which is the main ingredient in Roundup, causes cancer. Once the first lawsuit went through, hundreds of thousands of lawsuits started popping up against Monsanto. They had to get bought up by Bayer, you know, and it's kind of amazing that they're even still around. But yeah, so in here is a list. If I can find it, that would be great. Okay, these are the top 5 companies to maybe boycott. I mean, there's this whole Kellogg's boycott going on. Kellogg's, arguably, I mean, it's crappy what they're doing over there, but they're not killing people in droves intentionally. So
yeah.
So you got Bayer, which is an old German Nazi corporation, goes way back. They bought Monsanto. So when you hear Bayer, that's Monsanto. There's BASF, whoever that is, Corteva, FMC, and Syngenta. So these are the big 5 pesticide companies that are pushing glyphosate and creating these what are called neonicotinoids.
Say that 3 times fast.
And glufosinate, which is glyphosate.
Wow.
And yeah, so what they do is they are making these. Did you find? Yeah, that word, whatever that is, like that weird HP Lovecraftian.
Right. What kind of demon is this again?
But yeah, but they're pushing these products into developing nations. These nations that are trying to make a go at it are, and you know, routinely being dumped on by the corporatocracy.
You know, it's the whole cradle to grave control, because you got the pesticide manufacturers who are often owned by the chemical companies like DuPont, right?
Big Pharma's got their
so
mitts all over it.
You screw up the food, you screw up the environment, you force people to drink fluoridated water, you know, you name it. There's a million and one things we could list. And then don't worry, we got solutions for these. We're going to sell you a bunch of drugs. So it's not enough that they're killing off millions of people, causing endemic suffering, but they also try to make as much money as humanly possible.
It's a good business model. You got to give them that.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is a lot big money maker for sure. So, but there are better ways to make your money, I think. Speaking of which, as we close out the show, I have about 2 days left. I was just given a deadline of Friday. So basically, what that means is if you're a business owner, you have the tax entity that you filed under, LLC, S Corp, C Corp, whatever. As long as you file taxes in 2019 or 2020, I can help you get an SBA-backed EIDL loan. What that means is that you can get a ton of money to help fund your business, expand your business, and do all sorts of, you can even start a new business with this thing. But I need you to contact me. Email me, justin@ramello.business. That's justin@ramello.business. Tell me about your business. Let me know some information. I'm going to see if I can get you the help you need, because I'm trying to fund as many patriots as possible. If we want to end this globalist tyranny, like we were talking about earlier, we got to rally together, use the resources that we have available to us, and put an end to this insanity by creating amazing businesses that flourish. So that's what I'm trying to do. All right, everybody. Well, with that, we are ready to close out for the evening. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check the description and the links therein for support. Please also like, share, and subscribe to our work. We need all the help we can get trying to combat shadow banning and things like this. And with that, we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.